Hello, friends. Today I'm with, once again, Mark Kearny, who is the current farm manager at the Hawthorne Avenue location for the Newark Conservancy.
Yes.
Yeah, so welcome, Mark, once again. And thank you for taking time out to talk to us.
Not a problem.
Okay, so you are explaining to me, Mark, that what you're doing here. Just give us a brief overview of what you're doing.
So these strips that I'm hanging, what normally happens that after we prune the trees this year, we prune very hard. So we open up the tree more for sunlight, wind, and we find last year that the birds were nipping at our fruit, our raspberries, our strawberries. They were also at our peaches. So this year, what I did was, these are deterrent. These are just plain and simple bird scare tape. That's the technical name for them.
Right.
Some people use cake pans, pie pans, and they hang the pie pans. And the reflection, it doesn't hurt the bird. It just causes them to stop and turn, and it just gives your tree a little bit more stability for as not letting the birds pick at the fruit early in the early season.
Okay.
So that's why I'm hanging them now early.
Okay, so what kinds of trees would you normally put this on?
So I'm putting it on all the trees. So I'm putting it on my apple trees because last year birds usually like the worms and the seeds,
Right.
but they do pick at fruit, and that's something that most people don't pay attention to. When you find that once they pick at it, it'll begin to rot.
Okay.
So they'll pick at peaches, they'll pick at the plum tree, the apricot tree, the cherry trees, and the pear tree. So I'm putting them actually on every other tree.
Okay.
So that it will give that tree a chance to survive and not be picked at for the season.
Okay. So now, earlier you were explaining to me that we're at the point where we're going to begin to plant, okay?
Yes.
For fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
So what techniques do we need to apply, or what techniques do you utilize as you come up to that planting season?
So normally we try to wait for the ending of the frost, your last frost.
Right.
And right now with the weather as it was last year, it was very rainy. This year the frost is coming late.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a hardening off. And all that means is we're going to bring the plants out next week. Don't plant them, just set them out and let them get used to the heat in the day and the cool of the night.
Right.
And then once they harden off, then we'll plant them. So we'll bring them out next week. And then the following Monday, we'll begin to plant, and we should be fine.
Okay.
If we feel that it's going to be a frost, if you look over to my left, there is a actual road tunnel.
Right.
And that's what we would cover them if we felt like the weather would continue to be cold. We would just cover the rows up on those plants that we will plant in the ground. That would mostly be collards, bok choy, kale, Swiss chard. Those would be your basic plants this early in the season to plant.
Okay. And then would the residents be coming in now to plant?
Yes, we have also the potted fresh area,
Right.
which is 200.
That's that to your left,
Yes,
right?
those beds over there are 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and there's $15 for the season. And you come in at the end of March, and you start planting all the way up till next November. And they'll be coming in this Sunday to start cleaning out their plots.
Okay.
And beginning to prepare. Again, most of them won't plant, they'll just clean their beds because
Okay.
we still get this cold frost at night.
Okay. So when would be the ideal planting time?
The ideal planting time would be the first week and the second week of April. That's starting your early crops.
Okay.
Because you're going to plant 3 times throughout the season.
Okay.
So you have your late winter, your early spring, and then your fall crop, which again would be your kale, your bok choy, your beets, things like of that nature.
Okay.
And many more.
And last year, roughly how many residents do you have involved in the program?
And actually, in the potted fresh, we had over 100, and that's not including family members, children, friends, people who come to visit. So that area could be, because we have to, this year with the coronavirus, we really have to be mindful of safe distancing. So we will have them come in at different times.
Okay, you'll rotate them.
We'll rotate them just to see. We're waiting on the state and government health department to give us direction, and we will carry it out accordingly to what they recommend for safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And you said down the road you might be looking at also animals, or?
Yeah, well, we would love to have bees and chickens here later on. We're still, as you know, we work with the state. We rent this property from the state, so we have to follow the state guidelines and what we can and cannot do here. But bees and chickens would be awesome for the children. We have over 300 kids who come through from different schools, and we teach them how to eat healthy. We teach them about the environmental, what's good to eat, and then we try to show them that you can stir fry your Swiss chard and your kale, and you can put sausage in it, and you can make the meal fun. So it would be nice to be able to do that this season. We just don't know, because of the coronavirus, exactly how many people will be able to come in, how many will be willing to come in this year.
Good morning. Welcome to Family Fun in the Kitchen. My name is Megan Sweet, and I'm the nutrition educator for Greater Newark Conservancy. And I want to thank anyone who's able to tune in live today. I don't think anybody's watching yet, but if you're able to join with me and cook along with me, like we do every month, that will be great. And I want to thank anyone who's tuning in later after the fact, because this is being recorded. This will be on our Facebook page and ultimately on our website. So if you're watching this later, thank you for watching. And you can comment on the video at any time, even if you make the recipe later, and send us pictures and interact with us that way. So today's recipe, as you may know if you follow us on social media, we are going to be making salsa. And I picked salsa for a few reasons. So we're not actually cooking today. You might notice if you've tuned in before, I'm normally in the kitchen. Today I'm just at my dining room table because this is a raw recipe. We don't actually have to cook anything, even though it is a little bit cooler out today, so you probably don't mind turning on the oven. But this is just going to be a really simple, raw recipe. It's mostly just chopping. But I wanted to do salsa for a few reasons. Salsa uses a lot of ingredients that are in season right now, kind of using up the end of summer bounty. Whether you have a garden or if you don't, if you go to the farmer's market. And some of you may know that this week was Newark's citywide garden tour. So hopefully you've been able to go to some of those events this week. So this is the last day of Newark's citywide garden tour. And so I wanted to make a recipe that uses garden produce. And another reason why I picked this recipe is that it features the tomato, right? There are a lot of ingredients in salsa, but you typically think of tomatoes. And tomatoes are September's Jersey Fresh Farm to School Jersey Tastes of the Month. So September is tomato month. So I wanted to pick a recipe that features the tomato, which is one of my favorite foods. Now, of course, there are a lot of other things you can make with tomatoes, so feel free to put that in the comments. What else do you like to make with tomatoes? I know that if I have a real abundance of tomatoes, this year I didn't so much, but in past years, if I have 20 or 30 tomatoes that are ready at the same time, a really good way to use them up is to make sauce, make tomato sauce. So that's something else you can do. But today we are just going to chop up some vegetables, make our salsa. It's really delicious to just eat with chips, of course, or you can serve it with quesadillas or other foods. So before we get started, make sure, as always, that you've washed your hands. So I already washed my hands, I'm ready to go. And let's go through the ingredients. And I'll post the recipe later, but it's really simple, so make sure you have these ingredients on hand. And good morning. Hi, Maud. Thanks for joining. I see some people are starting to tune in, so that's great. Thanks for cooking with us as always. So, what are the ingredients we need? Now, you don't have to use the exact same ingredients as I'm using. Salsa is pretty flexible. But what I have on hand right now, I've got 3 tomatoes. So you want to use, and it doesn't really matter what type of tomato you use. If you have Roma tomatoes, you can use those. Those are better for sauce, but you could use any type of tomato. Then I've got a bell pepper. And again, whatever color bell pepper you can use. If you want it to be hot, you can also throw in a jalapeno or a serrano. I'm just gonna do a sweet bell pepper. Then you want an onion, either a red onion or a yellow onion. I like red onions. And then if you have cucumber, I'm not gonna use a whole cucumber, I'm gonna start with this, I might grab some more. And then you need garlic and lime juice, either from a fresh lime or if you have bottled lime juice, that works. And then we're gonna add some seasonings, so I'm gonna add some cumin, some salt and pepper. I might throw in a little cayenne since I don't have a hot pepper. And then something I like to add that I think is kind of unusual, you don't have to add this, but I like to add soy sauce to mine. Just a little bit, a dash of soy sauce, and that adds some flavor. So as you're making this along with me, feel free to comment if you're using different ingredients or if you're adding some other things in. So some people like to add black beans, some people like to add fruit like peaches or mango. So if you're doing something different, feel free to comment. I'd love to know what you're making differently.
Now, Mark, you have been associated with this farm for probably close to 10 years now.
Yes.
I would like you to just share with us your experiences. What has it done for you personally, and how has it built you? Just share with us your experiences.
I came here, I'm an ex-felon. I came to the city of Newark, needed a job, wasn't one available, went to a reentry program. All that was young men who had minor felonies that needed employment.
Right.
It was a program where we came and we cleaned up lots in different places. Then one day, they hired me, and then after that, Director Robin Darity asked the city if we could open up a lot, like take ownership of a lot to grow vegetables. And at that time, I didn't know anything about growing. I had parents and grandparents who grew, may have tilled the ground with them one time, but never really got involved. And here I started, it was Court Street, Martin Luther King Boulevard, and we did our first, it was an acre lot, acre and a half, and we started growing with the Clean and Green Initiative. It was a program under Mayor Booker at the time, who's now Senator Booker. And I just, as I began to do it, I fell in love with it. And then I actually realized that it was mentally and emotionally peaceful. And when you can plant a seed and you can see that seed grow from nothing, and then you can eat that after it grows, the tomato, the Swiss chard, the cucumber. And once that happens, it wakes you up. Like, you don't know. I mean, we go to the corner store, we eat chips and we get soda, and we don't know the health value. We go to school, they teach it, but we don't really get it until we get out here and begin to really see things grow. And then there was young men who had different charges that came home, couldn't get employment. This place were able to hire them at $8.40 an hour, somewhere in that range. And then I watched those guys' attitude change, personality change. They brought their parents, their girlfriend, their children, and it just gave life. And so I've learned that if you nurture a plant, you nurture that tomato plant, and it grows. After a while, that plant will nourish you. And then I took that same concept and I do it with people. When you nurture people, and then after a while, they'll see them grow, and that will give you hope, because it'll nourish you in seeing that you imparted something good and positive into them. So it runs the gamut of health, healthy living, healthy mind, body, and soul.
And you have established links with the immediate community around you and the wider community, and you have seen people from many, many different backgrounds come here and participate.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's amazing. Kenyans, from Puerto Rico, Cuba, Latin America. I mean, it's just the residents of Newark, those who live in the immediate area. We work with churches. We have groups that are coming down, asking if they can participate. I'm working with Ellie that she's a community activist. She's a police officer who does things in the community with the young kids. She's going to be coming. We're going to be working together, putting a program together to bring kids here and do functions here. It's really broad. It's bringing a community. It's called the Community Garden. It's the Hawthorne Avenue Farm, the biggest in the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
And it allows us to network and reach out and do more things with our community and teach our community of healthy living. We love ShopRite. We love Whole Foods. They've been a great partner to us. And just having this here, fresh food, it doesn't take away from those stores. It just adds awareness to healthy eating and healthy living. That's all.
Okay. So in closing, let's say I'm living somewhere else in the city or in another city in New Jersey, and I wanted to reach out to you or to the Conservancy. How would I do that in trying to get my urban farm in my particular area going?
Very easy. You just go on the website, Greater Newark Conservancy, Newark, New Jersey. We're on the website. We're on Facebook, Instagram. It'll come up. It'll show you all our programs. It'll give you all the numbers to contact us at. We have teachers that come from Harlem. We have another program in, I think it's Brooklyn. Okay. We have people who come from all over, and they just come for the day and just weed. And so if you just want to find out what we do, Greater Newark Conservancy, I think it's 32 Prince Street, Newark, New Jersey. Just go on the website. We'll pop up.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're so welcome.
And much success to you and your team here at the Conservancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Miss Sarah from the Education Department at Greater Newark Conservancy, and it's the second day of spring. It's also a few days into our self-quarantine, so we're doing some of our spring planting here at home rather than at the school gardens as we normally would at this time of year. But there's no reason to not celebrate spring with planting some spring veggies. And more than ever, we're talking about how important it is that we have food security. So I'm going to teach a little bit about how I plant spring veggies, and hopefully this will help you be able to try it a little bit at home. And hopefully you'll be able to join us when we get to planting our school gardens later this year. So come on here. I have a container, and I want to talk about container gardening a little bit. So this is a raised bed container. It looks a lot like an earth box, but this one's a little bit different. I'm going to be teaching in another video about how to use an earth box. This over here is a true earth box setup. But this one I'm just using as a container. I just have soil in here. And I was growing a crop last fall that I planted late summer, last fall. Let's see if you can figure out what I've got growing here. What is it? Studio audience?
It's a carrot!
Absolutely. So carrots actually are pretty cool because they will often overwinter. That means they survive through the winter because they have this big fat storage unit, the root. They get a little bit tough and woody and not so great to eat, but especially if you're not able to run out to the store, it can make you pretty excited and happy to find some carrots still in your garden come spring. So I'm just making sure that I've got all those carrot roots cleared out of this bed before I plant in it. So you might wonder if I was going to plant carrots in this bed. But usually what we want to do is rotate what we grow in any area. So since I was growing carrots here, I really don't want to plant carrots in this container again because that would make them more susceptible to diseases, insects, other stuff that might kind of stick with that crop. So it looks like I've got everything cleared out here, so I'm ready to plant something new. So what I have here is some spring veggies that are provided by our friendly friends at Cube Pack. They've been through a little bit of rough days on their way here, but I think most of them will bounce back. So these are all cool season veggies, because even though it's the first day or the second day of spring, it's still gonna get cold again. So we wouldn't want to be planting something like tomatoes or peppers, because those crops really need consistently warmer days. But stuff like, you guys know what this is? Studio audience?
Lettuce.
Yes, you're right, leaf lettuce. This one's tougher. I'm gonna cover up the name on it. Can you tell what it is?
Is it spinach?
Ah, very good. Yes. So spinach, cool season crop. Okay, now we're getting even tougher.
I'm thinking that Swiss chard.
Ooh, good guess. Really close. Swiss chard is also a cool season veggie, but this one is kale, one of my favorites. And okay, we're getting really obscure here.
Arugula.
Oh, such a good guess. Also a cool season crop. This one is actually Bok Choy. This is making Bok Choy, and I'm really excited for these because I've been really enjoying the Bok Choy recently. So these are all cool season crops, and they all have something else in common. Can you guess what it is? Studio audience?
They're all leafy vegetables.
Exactly! The plant part we eat on these is the leaves, and so that means they're easy to grow. We don't have to get them all the way to the point of making a tomato or even a root vegetable like a carrot. These are the easiest things to grow because we're just trying to get them to grow more leaves, and then they'll be ready to eat. So I'm going to lay out this bed. You can see in this bed that it's already really nice, pretty fluffy soil. But the thing about leaf crops is they use a lot of nutrients in the soil. They use nitrogen. So ideally, I would be planting these in a bed that had grown something like peas or beans last, because those crops actually help the soil fix nitrogen. It helps it make nitrogen that's available in the become more available in the soil for the plants to grow. But I don't have a bed that had peas or beans, so I'm going to use this one. But what I'm going to do is add a little bit of an organic dry fertilizer. Okay, so I just wanted to show a little bit about using an organic fertilizer in a raised bed. So a lot of times when I'm planting an in-ground garden, I'm just adding I'm adding compost to the soil to fertilize it. But for raised beds, because you're planting them so intensively and you don't really have as much area to grow in, adding dry organic fertilizer really helps, especially getting new plants established. So this is Plantone. It's just one of many dry organic fertilizers, but it shows you that it has just a little bit of nitrogen, a little bit of potassium, and a little bit of phosphorus. So it's a very light fertilizer, but it will help the seedlings get established. So the rate that Plantone recommends to add is about a cup per cubic feet of soil in a container. This container is about 3 cubic feet, so I'm going to add about three cups of fertilizer to this bed. I'm just going to try and evenly distribute it, and then dig it in. And what's nice about using an organic fertilizer like this is it's pretty difficult to burn your plants' roots, as it would be if you were using like a really heavy-duty conventional fertilizer. Yeah. So I was saying that I was going to lay this out in sort of like a square foot method. and I'm gonna do 1 square with kale. I'll do 1 square with spinach and 1 square with lettuce, okay? So kale, when you're planting it in a square foot method, usually you can put 4 in 1 square foot. If you're really gonna grow it into a big kale, you would wanna just do 1 per square foot, but these I'll probably harvest when they're still young, so like as baby kale. So you notice when I'm pulling these out of this plug tray, they're already really tightly root bound, meaning that the roots have kind of grown all the way to the edges of it. So you can see I'm kind of loosening them up before I'm getting them in the ground. And I'm actually, what I should be doing is you really want to hold your seedling, either support it from the bottom, or ideally support it from the bottom, and then you can hold onto the leaves. The stem of the plant is actually the most delicate part, so it's really actually better to hold your plant by the leaves. So you can see I'm getting it into that little square that I've created from him down in there, but I don't want to pack down the soil. I want to keep it really nice and loose, so that there's lots of pore space allowing water to get in there and air to get in there, because those roots need both air and water. Okay, got my 4 kale. So spinach also you could grow with 4 square, but I'm gonna harvest these as baby spinach, so I'm gonna do a 9 square here. I might have to employ one of my carrots as a poker. So let's see if I can actually manage this. This is getting a little tricky here. All right, well, I'm just gonna give you the idea here. I'm not gonna make you hang out while I plant all of these. But you can see these ones, the root system is a little less developed. They don't really need to be roughed up quite so much. Okay. So the last thing I want to show though is that as I'm planting these, I am going to label, because I want to remember what I've planted here, even though I can identify them pretty well. And I'm going to label the name of the plant and the day I planted it, which is, today is 3/20.